Hi, I'm Steve Good. Welcome to my Scroll Saw workshop. Well, it's been a while since we've been out here in the workshop to do a video for you guys, and it really feels good to be back home. I know many of you know I've been gone for a while, and I've had a little time now to design some patterns, and I just wanted to get out here and put one together for you tonight. This particular pattern is what I'm calling a perfume tray. Now you could pretty well call it anything you want, be some kind of centerpiece or whatever. Not a very challenging project other than the fact that there's quite a bit of fretwork involved in it, and the assembly is going to be quite simple. So we'll put this pattern together tonight, and if you like it, let me know. I'll zoom in on it and give you a little closer look. Here's what we're going to work on tonight. It's what I'm calling a perfume tray. I'm going to give you a little closer look at it. Going to be a little bit of a challenge in that there's more fretwork to cut out than what I normally have in my patterns, but wanted to do something just a little more challenging for you guys since I got back. And so we'll cut this out tonight, and hopefully you can use it as a gift for someone in your life. Alright, let's check out the materials we'll need to put this together. Let's talk about the supplies we're going to need to build this little perfume tray tonight. It's pretty simple. You're going to need the plans off of my website at www.scrollsawworkshop.blogspot.com. You're going to need some 1/2 inch thick wood and some 1/4 inch thick wood. The 1/2 inch will be for the bottom of the tray, and the 1/4 inch will be for the sides. In this case, the wood I'm using for the sides is a little bit thinner than 1/4 inch, just because that's what I had available. If you do decide to use a little thinner or thicker wood for the sides, you will need to modify the pattern just a little bit, because this is a slot and tab type of pattern, so you'll have to modify the slots just a little bit to accommodate the thickness of your wood. You're also going to need some spray adhesive to apply the pattern to the wood, some wood glue for the assembly, and box tape like we always use here to help lubricate the blade so the cutting goes a little easier. Now this is pretty thin stock, so you could probably get away without the tape today, but that's what you'll need, and I'm going to go ahead and get the patterns all cut out, and then we'll apply them and get started. Here's a little tip on how I handle cutting out the patterns. Now a lot of times you can just use a pair of scissors and cut the pattern out and apply them to the wood, but in this case we want the sides and the ends of this box to have a very smooth bottom edge. So if we tried to cut the bottom of this on the scroll saw, it probably wouldn't glue up to the board very well. So what I'll normally do is line up the bottom of all these pieces with the edge of the wood that's already been cut at the table saw, so we know it's nice and straight. So what I do is I take an X-Acto knife, a self-healing cutting board, and a straight edge, and I just cut out the bottoms of these patterns in a nice straight line, so I can apply them right to the bottom of the piece of wood that I'm going to apply them to. Just like that. Now when I cut out the rest of this pattern, I can apply it to the wood, and we'll have a nice straight edge. Pattern's cut out, and I went ahead and cut down the wood to the approximate size we're going to need. And in this case, I milled up all the pieces to be the same size because I'm going to stack cut these pieces. And to show you what I was talking about earlier on cutting out the bottom of the pattern, when I apply this pattern to the wood, this edge that I cut right at the very bottom, I'm going to line it up with the very bottom of the piece of wood, and this will be the piece that will glue up to the bottom of the tray. My spray drawer pulled out here where I lay the patterns down to apply the spray glue. And in this case, I'm going to go ahead and put the end pieces on the wood. Shake up the spray glue pretty good. Give it a pretty good coat. And then, like I said, I'm going to apply it to the bottom of one of the end pieces, lining up the bottom of the pattern with the bottom of the wood. So you want to be pretty careful here to get this as accurate as you can. Apply that in. Now I'll go ahead and do the front and back, but in this case, to speed this pattern up quite a bit, I am going to stack cut these, so I'm only going to apply the pattern to one of the pieces of wood, and then I'll show you here in a little bit. We'll go ahead and put these two boards together, and then when we cut them, we'll get them both at the same time. I've got the pattern applied to the wood blanks. I took my clear box tape and I wrapped it all the way around both end pieces of wood, and then I went ahead and drove a brad into one corner of the piece of wood just to help keep it registered a little bit while I'm cutting it. So we're ready to do our stack cutting. We'll take these pieces over to the drill press and drill our entry holes. Got all the blanks over here at the drill press, and I want to give you a tip about drilling your entry holes. I've gone ahead and chucked up a 1/16 inch drill bit in my drill press, and the best tip I can give you for selecting your drill bit is use the largest drill bit that you can use in your pattern. In other words, if you have a very intricate fretwork pattern, you're going to have to go down to smaller and smaller bits to be able to keep those holes from interfering with your pattern. So in this case, I don't have any real small areas, so I've got a 1/16 inch. I could probably even almost go up to an 1/8 inch for this pattern. But the larger the hole that you put in the pattern, the easier it is to feed your blade. So just a tip there. The next thing I want to talk about, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit and let you see this a little closer. When you get ready to drill your entry holes, think about what you're doing before you put the entry hole in. Let's take this corner piece right here that we're going to cut out, for instance. If I were to put my entry hole right here and I were to start my cut from this point on this straight line, when I come back around and finish that cut, the transition between the start and the finish is likely to leave a little nub, which is going to cause you to have to do extra sanding when you get done. So I always like to start my cuts in a corner. So generally what I'll do is I'll put the entry hole close to a corner, feed the blade into that corner, and then come out of it. And that way when I come back, there'll be a nice transition that's hidden there in the corner. It's going to have quite a few entry holes to cut, so try to pay attention while you're cutting and make sure you don't miss any or you'll end up having to come back. Another advantage of stack cutting is it cuts the number of entry holes we have to drill in half. I've got my pieces over here at the scroll saw now, and I'm going to go ahead and begin the cut. The first thing you have to do when you start to cut out a project like this is to make a decision on which blade you're going to use. Now, I'm a minimalist when it comes to blades. I don't keep a large selection of blades. I basically carry 3 main blades that I use a lot and then a few specialty blades. And the blades that I use the most often are a number 3, a number 5, and a number 7. Now this is just me, and it's going to vary depending on the type of projects you cut. For instance, people that cut a lot of portrait patterns are going to use a lot of spiral blades or smaller blades. I don't do many portraits. I'm generally making the type of project you're seeing here tonight. So in this case, I picked a number 5. It's a number 5 scroll reverse blade. Now the scroll reverse simply means you've got some teeth pointed the opposite direction, in other words up. And what this does is it makes a much cleaner cut on the bottom of the pattern and just reduces the amount of sanding you have. Now there is a disadvantage to the scroll reverse that some people seem to dislike, and that is that the teeth will sometimes lift the pattern up off of the wood as you're cutting. So that's the downside to it. I generally use the tape over it and I have a pretty good luck keeping the pattern down, but when I don't, I've gotten good over the years of just using my finger to hold it down while I cut. So in this case I'm going to go ahead and put a Flying Dutchman scroll reverse number 5 blade in and we'll start cutting.